Hello guys, welcome to Illustrator Crash Course. We'll be going to learn the very essentials of what Illustrator can give you to master your craft. And in this first segment, we're going to understand what Illustrator is and what tools and what makes it differentiate with the Photoshop or any other software. So first of all, I have opened up this Illustrator application. And the first thing you can see here is the welcome screen. Here you can see multiple buttons like new file, open, home, and learn. Here is your recent files, this section. You can go with whatever you're working with. And here you can start with a new file. There are different categories for TV, more presets. These are all the presets, which presets means already set sizes and their dimensions and their resolutions. So what we're going to do is we'll be starting a new file and we'll set. So this is our settings where we can set our document size, uh, the color mode, the screen resolutions, and everything. So first of all, we're going to do this sketch trace. We're going to be learning how to use Illustrator by practically doing a sample work. I'm going to take around 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels with one artboard. So artboard is just like a canvas, and with multiple artboards, we can have different canvases. So orientation, I'll be going to put it on a portrait, and we're going to be using pixels. We have different dimensions here, but we'll be going to use in pixels. Okay. Now color mode is going to be RGB. If the difference between these two is when you're going to use the digital platform to show your work on a digital work, you're going to use RGB. Whereas if you are going to use a print media, or if you want something that you have created to be printed, then you have to select the CMYK color, because all the printers and dotted uh, devices going to use CMYK color as their method to generate colors. Whereas for digital, all the pixels that we have on our screen is going to be RGB. Okay. And for the resolution, it doesn't matter if you are going to use digital. 720 ppi, which means pixel per inch, is enough. Whereas if you're going with CM print uh, illustration or anything, we're going to be using a high mode, which is 300 ppi, means more density, more clarity, more resolution. So in 1 inch, there are going to be more pixels. That's why it's going to be huge, and the file size also going to be huge. Okay, so that's all we have to do here. And here you can see we have different categories here. Here we have saved, which means right now it's not showing anything because we haven't saved any of the settings here which we have set. For mobile, there are different options for iPhone, iPad, different sizes. We can design for that particular sizes like iPhone. For web, we have different sizes. And if when you're going to click on this, what you're going to see is here the color mode and the screen. So if I go from web to print, here you can see it changed to CMYK. That means when we are going to make anything that is going for a print, it's going to be using CMYK mode, right? So web is going to be using RGB and print is going to be using CMYK. So anything that goes on to the digital screens is going to be using RGB. Here we have all the different sizes. So these are all graphics that TV uses, TV graphics, and the art and illustration. If your art and illustration is going to be printed, you can select CMYK color here, okay, according to your need. So we have already set here. and let's start. Before that, let me reach this to 2000 pixels. By 2000 pixels, we'll get a bigger canvas, right? So here, here is our workspace, and here you can see many things. It's very overwhelming to see so many things right now. We'll go at it by one, and here you can see different things. What we are going to do, if you are very first in the Illustrator, we are going to be going to here. This is our workspace. This you can access with the window, workspace, and then Essentials Classic. Okay, Essentials Classic will reset your workspace, and you will have something like this if you are just starting out and you have just installed the software. So this is our artboard. This is our canvas, and these are all the menus here. We'll go by one, what does what, and the toolbars. These are all the tools we can use to make anything, any creative or any illustrations or anything. These are the tabs, which is detachable. If you just go here, you will see a highlighted area and you can just attach it to that. So these are all detachable things. If you just here, it will give you like a blue highlight, and once you see that, you can just attach to it. And similarly, like this, these are all the tools here, and these are all the panels. These are panels. Okay, but before that, we're going to be exploring one concept that differentiates Illustrator from the Photoshop, and that is a vector space versus a pixel space. So what does Illustrator provide us and versus what Photoshop provides us? So I'm going to be making a box or circle here. So here I have a circle. So generally what in our screen we have is the pixels. And once this pixels is decided, you cannot adjust it according to your need. But when you are using Illustrator, Illustrator is a vector-based device. It's a vector-based software. What it does is it mathematically provides us with very clarity that we can have as much as resolutions. That means as much as the clarity we want into our objects so that we don't break it apart. What do I mean by that is, let's see, I'm going to open my Photoshop here, okay, just to differentiate between these two. Here you can see this is a picture, right? And at this scale, you can see it very clearly. You can see all the things are there. And once you zoom in, the clarity of the images gets reduced. It gets more unclear. And as you go further, you can see it resolves into pixels. And the information with which this image is built is on the pixels. So all the pixels, once we accumulate to see at a certain scale, it makes sense. But if we zoom in, it breaks it into a pixel. And this is the main concept that you need to understand. With pixels, once you decide a certain size or resolutions, it stays there. Whereas for Illustrator, once you decide a size and resolution, you can see clearly without getting any pixelated things because the software provides you with mathematical solution that helps you to see at higher resolutions. with very clarity. What I mean by resolution is higher clarity. It doesn't breaks it into pixels, and our clarity with the images, we don't compromise on that. So here is our circle. Now, as I zoom in, it gets breaked into pixels, right? Let's scale it down, and I'm going to enter. Now I have reduced its scale. Okay, you can still see it's all pixels. So now when I stretch it back to the bigger size, we lose its clarity. You can see here, it loses its clarity. Same thing. Once I do it again, we again lose its clarity. So once we go very deep, you can see there is a gradient that we get with these pixels. And whereas if we go with this, if I reduce it down, you can see there is no compromise on the clarity because the software provides with the mathematical values which allows us to see with very high clarity. So this is the difference between a vector based software and a pixel based software. Photoshop is a pixel based software. It's used for many things. It's used for manipulation of images and anything that involves like illustrations conjunction with making pixels. Whereas for Illustrator, where we have to work with different sizes, different resolutions. So what we want is much clarity with the work and to replicate it in different sizes. So once we have a very clear objects inside it, we can replicate it in different sizes without compromising on any quality. Okay, with that, we're going to diving deep into all the tools here, and we're going to be starting with this toolbar. So first we have an selection tool, and we have the same thing with a different color. So the difference between these two is, let's say, okay, I'm going to take a box. Okay, so here's the difference. So when I want to select an object, I'm going to use a selection tool. Here it selects an object and I can move it. Whereas the one with the white one, it helps me select the points of that object, the anchor of that object to manipulate it. Okay, so if you select on the middle of the object, it turns into a selection tool. Whereas if you click on the corners of the object, it turns into a anchor selection tool, a direct selection tool. Okay, you can change it with the shortcut. A is for direct selection tool to manipulate the anchor points of an object, whereas if you want to just move the object, you can select it with V. Okay, next here we have a selection magic wand tool. So here, these are the things that we're going to see as we illustrate or make anything. And the next thing is a lasso tool. So lasso tool is something like this. So what we're going to use is, if we want the anchor point, if we want to manipulate only the three corners of this object, we're going to select like this. This is a freehand tool which selects the custom points, which points we want. In that way, once I have selected it, I'm going to select the direct selection tool and then I can manipulate it. As you can see, all the points that we wanted are selected and are moving along together. Right? So these are the things for selection. These are the things for selection from here to here. Right? Now, when it comes to creating things, if you want to create new things, these are the things. These are the tools that we're going to use to make new things, right? So we're going to start with a box, which is the square button here. And the shortcut for this is M. So with this, we can make a box here. And if we just click on this and double click on anywhere, so it gives us a box where we can select the width and the height of that object. So let's say if we want 10 by 10 pixels of an object, it's very small, right? So if I double click again, I get the box again. And this time I'm going to use 150 by 150 pixels of box. And here I got the box. Same way, if you just hold on to this button, you get a different options for that tool. And these are the hidden tools. If you want to separate it, you can just click on it and it's going to get separated. And if you want to just separate it from here, it's easy to access like this. So here we have a square or a rectangle tool with corner edges. Here we get a corner edges. Now what we're going to be using is selection tool. Okay, with that we can select any corner objects. If we want this, here you can see 4 points, and these are the points which help us to make our corner more rounded. These are the rounded corners. So if I just click here, you can see it changes into a hollow circle. A hollow circle. Previous that it had a point in the between. Now it's a hollow. That means it is selected, and I can just pull it as much as I want to make it as curved as possible. In the same way, if I want to select multiple corners, I'm going to select Control on the keyboard, Command on the Mac. If you're going to use Mac, then I'm going to select this. Or if you're going to be selecting multiple points, you're going to use a Shift. Select this, then select this by holding Shift. And this way you can get both of the points selected. Now you can stretch it as much as you want to get a curve of this. So that was our rectangle with rounded rectangle tool, and we have ellipse tool. So if you just want to access tools inside this, so the shortcut for this is L. Okay, for rectangle tool, the shortcut is M. So it's important to know, if you're just starting out, it's very overwhelming to remember all the shortcuts. But if you want to ace this software as fast as possible and have control over the software, I will recommend you to understand what the tools does and how you can use those tools with the shortcuts to remember the shortcuts. That way you can access any tools with very ease. Okay, now here I have a circle. Let's take another tool, which is a polygon. Here the polygon is, this is a hexagon. Okay, if I make different, I'm using a selection tool V with here. Okay, now I got a hexagon here. Now I want a different polygon with different amount of size, a different, like this has a size of like 6, right? But I want a different uh, amount of sizes. So that way I'm going to select, I'm going to hold my mouse button and I'm going to press up and down. Up for increasing the sides and the points, for down to decrease it. In this way, I can make as many polygons as I want. Here I have made a triangle. Okay. Here I have a star tool. So what star tool does, it gives me a star. Now, if I press up and down while holding my mouse button, so you can see I can scale it while I'm holding it. Okay. Now, if I increase it by pressing up button, I can increase its size to decrease it. Again, I get a triangle. This looks fine. And these are the essentials of these here tools. The next I'm going to tell you about is how to select, duplicate, and use things in conjunction. In that way, you can align things and you can subtract, add, and make many things with an object. We have things here. Now we're going to select it apart. Okay, so first thing, what we're going to do is we're going to learn about the replication. Okay, so here I have a box. Let's make it red. Okay, here I have a tool which is like a uh, color plate, and it has a color, so you can stretch it to get as many colors as you want. I'm going to use, let's say, orange. I'm going to select selection tool with V, and I'm going to place it here. Now how we can duplicate is either we can copy it, Control C. I'm going to press Control and C to copy and Control and V to paste. In this way I can get a copy. Okay, this is the first way. Second way is to hold Alt. In this way you can see the mouse has a twin of it. So this tells me I can duplicate it. So I'm just going to hold Alt or Option in the Mac and drag it. Okay, this way we can duplicate it. Another way to duplicate is, but what if we want to duplicate it and it should be pasted in place on top of it? How we are going to do is we're going to copy it with Control C in Edit menu and paste in place. Okay, this way it gets pasted on top of it. This is very helpful, and we're going to see how this is